J.D. Power just ranked the best motorcycles you can buy for 2026 and 2027, and the results are going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. Not because the methodology is wrong, because it is exactly right. And the bike sitting at number 1, it is not what the dealership told you to buy. It is not the brand with the loudest marketing budget. It is the machine that actual owners, tens of thousands of them, riding real miles in the real world, said they would buy again without hesitation. That number 1 pick is the one that is going to settle some arguments in the comments and start a few new ones. We will get there, but first, you need to understand why this ranking exists and why it carries more weight than any review you have read on a motorcycle blog. The J.D. Power Motorcycle Owner Satisfaction Study is not a press event. Nobody handed anybody a press bike for a weekend. The data behind this ranking comes from real owners, surveyed after a full year of living with their motorcycles, paying for their own fuel, their own service, their own repairs. The study measures 5 specific things: product quality and design, the dealership service experience, cost of ownership, emotional attachment, and the likelihood of repurchasing the same brand. 5 criteria. And when you stack those 5 side by side across the major brands, a very clear picture emerges. Harley-Davidson scores exceptionally well on one of those 5, emotional attachment. Nobody debates that. The brand has built something that is almost impossible to manufacture on purpose. A cultural identity that makes its riders feel like they belong to something bigger than a motorcycle. That is real. That is earned. But emotional attachment alone does not keep you from pushing your bike into a dealer 3 times in the first year. It does not offset a $32,999 purchase that depreciates faster than you expected. And when J.D. Power measures the other 4 criteria, quality, service, cost of ownership, repurchase intent, the gap between what Harley owners feel and what they actually experience starts to show. That gap is what this list is built on. These are the 4 motorcycles that close that gap, and the bike that closes it the most completely is the one that will surprise you most. Number 4, Kawasaki Vulcan 1700 Vaquero ABS. The first bike on this list is one that the average rider at a Harley dealership has probably never seriously considered. And that is exactly why it belongs here. The 2026 Kawasaki Vulcan 1700 Vaquero ABS enters the ranking at number 4, and its position here has nothing to do with its styling, which is polarizing, and everything to do with what it costs to own and what it costs to fix. Starting at $19,999 MSRP, the Vaquero is powered by a 1,700cc liquid-cooled 52-degree V-twin that produces 82 horsepower at 5,000 RPM and 108 pound-feet of torque at just 2,750 RPM. That torque number hits at a lower RPM than almost anything in its class, which means on real roads, at real highway speeds, the Vaquero pulls like it has something to prove without making the engine work hard enough to stress about the long haul. Think about that price point for a moment. At $19.99, you are getting a frame-mounted fairing, sealed, lockable saddlebags, a full audio system with Sirius XM and intercom compatibility, electronic cruise control, and Kawasaki's K-Act 2 linked ABS. That is a feature list that costs $12,000 more to get into at a Harley dealership. And before anyone says this is an apples to oranges comparison, it is worth asking. If J.D. Power's cost of ownership metric puts the Vulcan platform consistently above the American V-twin average, and it does, then what exactly are you paying that premium for? That is not a rhetorical question. It is the question that every rider who has hit their first major service interval on a Milwaukee 8 needs to seriously answer. The Vaquero runs a 6-speed transmission, belt final drive, and a 36-month limited warranty that Kawasaki backs with a dealer network that is not trying to upsell you on a maintenance package you do not need. The curb weight comes in at 844 pounds. Yes, That is heavy, but it is a weight the platform carries with confidence. The 28.7-inch seat height means most riders are flat-footed at stops. Stability is the Vaquero's primary characteristic, and that stability is a large part of why owners rate their long-distance comfort so consistently well in owner satisfaction surveys. Is it exciting to look at? That depends entirely on who you ask. Is it still running strong at 60,000 miles without a major rebuild? According to the owners who have done exactly that, absolutely. The Vaquero lands at 4 because it dominates 2 of the 5 J.D. Power criteria: cost of ownership and initial quality. And nothing else in this price range comes close. What it does not offer is what the next 3 bikes on this list have. And the bike that comes in at number 3 is going to make every Harley loyalist in this audience rethink what the word American means in motorcycling right now. 3. Indian Chieftain Power Plus 112. Here is where the conversation shifts. The 2026 Indian Chieftain Power Plus 112 is the bike that has been quietly winning bagger comparison tests since the Power Plus engine arrived. And the J.D. Power owner satisfaction data reflects exactly what the comparison tests already told you. The engine alone changes the conversation. The 1,834cc liquid-cooled V-twin produces 126 horsepower and 133 pound-feet of torque at 3,600 RPM from the factory. And that engine has won 3 Moto America King of the Baggers championships. Not because someone built a race version of it, because the factory version is that strong. The base Chieftain Power Plus Limited starts at approx $32,499. And for that money, you get inverted front forks with radial Brembo brakes, a 6-axis Bosch IMU with lean-sensitive traction control and ABS, blind spot warning, rear collision warning, bike hold control, and electronically linked brakes. Standard, not optional. When Rider Magazine ran a direct comparison between the 2025 Harley-Davidson Street Glide and the Chieftain Power Plus earlier this year, the scorecard on comfort, ride quality, wind protection, technology, and convenience all went to Indian. The Street Glide won on handling feel in tight situations. It's lighter and shorter, but on wide open roads, where baggers actually spend their lives, the Indian's combination of chassis sophistication and outright power was not close. And power matters here in a very specific way. What happens when you are loaded 2 up, luggage packed, cruising at 75 miles per hour, and you need to pass a slow-moving semi on a 2-lane? The Chieftain Power Plus 112 answers that question with 126 horsepower of liquid-cooled V-twin that has never broken a sweat in normal riding. What does the Milwaukee H117 answer with? 106 horsepower and a maintenance interval that most dealers are going to try to schedule sooner than you expected. The J.D. Power criteria that push the Chieftain ahead of the Harley are product quality and design and repurchase intent. Indian owners, particularly Power Plus owners, show a repurchase rate that has been climbing year over year, and the specific complaint categories that pull Harley scores down, mainly electronics reliability and service consistency, are areas where Indian has invested heavily since taking the brand serious beginning in 2016. The Fox shock at the rear, the power-adjustable windshield, the keyless ignition, the remote locking saddlebags, these are features that owners interact with every single ride, and they work every time. Does that mean the Chieftain is perfect? No. The dealer network is thinner than Harley's. If you are in a mid-size market, you might have one Indian dealer within a 2-hour radius. That is a real limitation. But here is what makes the number 3 position interesting. Even with that dealer network disadvantage dragging its service score down, the Indian still outpoints the Harley when all 5 J.D. Power criteria are weighted together. Imagine where it would rank if Indian built out the kind of dealer presence that Harley has spent a century building. And yet, despite all of this, despite the horsepower advantage, the technology package, the championship engine, there are still 2 motorcycles that left the Chieftain behind in this ranking. And one of them is not American. That alone should tell you something. Before we get to the top two, I want to ask you something directly. Right now, in the comments below this video, do you think a European motorcycle can genuinely outscore an American V-twin on owner satisfaction in the US market? Not on the racetrack, not in a magazine, in the real world, measured by the owners who actually paid for it and lived with it for a full year. Drop your answer below, because the number 2 bike on this list is going to answer that question for you. Number 2, BMW R18. The BMW R18 should not be on this list according to everyone who watched it debut in 2020. It was too heavy, they said, too expensive for what you got, too German to appeal to the American cruiser market. And the 2025 update made every one of those critics quiet down. Here's what the R18 actually is. It is powered by the largest boxer engine BMW has ever built, a 1,802cc air and oil-cooled flat twin that produces 91 horsepower at 4,750 RPM and a revised 120 pounds-feet of torque at 3,000 RPM, with over 110 pounds-feet available continuously between 2,000 and 4,000 RPM. That torque curve, wide, deep, relentless between idle and highway speed, is the reason R18 owners do not feel the need to make excuses for their bike. The base R18 starts at $15,395, making it one of the most underpriced heavyweight cruisers in the segment. The R18B Bagger starts at $20,375, and the fully loaded R18 Transcontinental comes in at $24,395. For context, you can put an R18 Transcontinental in your garage for less than a base 2026 Street Glide. The reason BMW scores so strongly on the J.D. Power product quality and design criteria is mechanical in origin. The flat twin boxer configuration, with each cylinder sticking out horizontally into the airflow, runs cooler than an air-cooled V-twin sitting in a Harley frame, particularly in stop-and-go traffic. The shaft drive eliminates chain and belt maintenance entirely. The cornering-aware ABS is among the most sophisticated in any cruiser platform. The 2025 update also brought a revised rear wheel up to 18 inches, new fenders with a more contemporary profile, a recontoured and softer seat, and a USB-C charging socket. The seat height rose slightly to 28.3 inches, which still puts most riders' feet flat or near flat at a stop. And the 36-month BMW Motorrad warranty applies to the entire R18 family. Now let's talk about the one criterion that prevents the R18 from claiming the top spot: cost of ownership. BMW parts and labor are not cheap. Dealers are well-trained and the bikes are well-engineered. But when something goes wrong, and all mechanical things eventually do, the bill on an R18 is going to be higher than the equivalent bill on the number 1 bike on this list. That is not speculation. That is the pattern in J.D. Power's cost of ownership data across multiple years of the study. The R18 wins on emotional attachment almost as strongly as Harley does, and it wins decisively on initial quality. But the long-term cost equation gives the top position to a machine that has spent the last decade being described as too practical, too smooth, too reliable to be taken seriously by the cruiser community. That description, it turns out, is exactly what J.D. Power considers a winning profile. And the rider who figured that out first is not who you think it is. Number 1, Honda Goldwing Tour DCT. This is the part where some of you are going to close the video. And if you do, you will have proven the exact point this video is making, that brand loyalty overrides data so completely that even the announcement of a winner based on real owner satisfaction is enough to make a rider with 30 years of V-twin experience stop listening. But for those of you who are still here, the 2026 Honda Goldwing Tour DCT is the best motorcycle you can buy right now by every measurable standard that J.D. Power tracks. Not the most American, not the most traditional. The engine is a 1,833cc liquid-cooled flat 6, not a V-twin, not an inline 4, a flat 6, producing 125 horsepower at 5,500 RPM and 125 pounds-feet of torque at 4,500 RPM through a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission that is the only motorcycle DCT of its kind in production. The DCT model shifts faster and more precisely than you will ever shift manually, and it includes a walking mode, forward and reverse, that uses engine power to creep the bike in either direction at a literal walking pace. The Goldwing Tour DCT starts at $30,500, and the Airbag DCT version, the only production motorcycle in existence with a factory-fitted airbag, starts at $33,800. It rides on a double wishbone front suspension, not a telescopic fork, a double wishbone, the same geometry you find on sports cars and supercars, because Honda decided that a machine carrying 2 people and a full load of luggage at highway speeds deserved a front suspension that separates braking forces from steering input, so the front end stays composed under hard stops. Here is where J.D. Power's 5 criteria come together in a way no other motorcycle in this ranking achieves simultaneously. Product quality and design. The Goldwing has been refined continuously since 1975, and the current GL 1800 generation arrived in 2018, having shed over 88 pounds from the previous model. Every subsequent year has brought targeted improvements: better DCT mapping in 2020, Apple CarPlay in 2021, improved audio in subsequent years, a tire pressure monitoring system in 2023. Honda does not redesign what is working, they refine. Cost of ownership. The Goldwing's Flat 6 is legendarily reliable. Shaft drive means zero chain maintenance. The DCT has no clutch plates to replace. The engine service intervals on the Goldwing are longer than those on any current Harley-Davidson touring model, and the cost per service when you do go in is consistently lower. Service. Honda dealers are everywhere, and parts availability is not a question. Emotional attachment. This is where the data does something surprising. Goldwing owners, particularly DCT owners, report a level of ownership satisfaction that creates what J.D. Power describes as extremely high emotional attachment. Not to an image, but to the experience of actually riding the bike, which is different and arguably more durable. Repurchase intent. Goldwing owners repurchase at one of the highest rates in the study. They buy the Goldwing, they live with it for years, and then they buy another one. Now let's put a direct number on what this means. The 2026 Harley-Davidson Road Glide Limited starts at $32,999. The Milwaukee 8 VVT 117 produces 106 HP and 131 pound-feet of torque. It is a genuinely improved motorcycle in 2026, lighter by 24 pounds compared to the outgoing Ultra Limited. Better electronics, better aerodynamics. Harley is not standing still. But the Goldwing Tour DCT gives you 125 HP, a 7-speed automatic transmission, a double wishbone front end, an airbag option, factory Apple CarPlay, a 7-inch TFT display with a gyro compass that works inside tunnels, heated grips standard, and the most refined long-distance 2-up touring experience in the segment, for $2,499 less than the Road Glide Limited's base price. And when J.D. Power puts those two bikes through the full 5-criterion study, using data from owners who have been riding them for a year, the gap is not a tie. It is not a photo finish. The Goldwing wins on 4 of the 5 criteria. The only one where Harley still has the edge is emotional attachment to the brand itself. And you already know which brand that works for. What you might not know, what this data makes very clear, is whether that emotional attachment is worth what it costs you over 5 years of actual ownership. Because the riders who ran that math and came out the other side are the ones buying Goldwings right now. The Goldwing has been the objective answer to the touring question for over a decade. The difference in 2026 and 2027 is that J.D. Power's owner data has become specific enough and broad enough that you can no longer argue around it. You can only decide how much the argument matters to you. And the riders commenting below who own a Goldwing right now, they stopped arguing about this a long time ago. They are just riding, 500 miles at a time, 2 up, luggage full, without thinking about the service interval coming up because the Goldwing's Flat 6 does not give you a reason to think about it. Here is what this ranking does not answer, and what nobody in the industry wants to say out loud. Harley-Davidson knows exactly where it scores on 4 of these 5 criteria, because they have the same JD Power data you now have. They have had it for years. So the real question, the one that determines whether the 2027 version of this list looks any different, is not whether Harley can build a better motorcycle. We know they can, because the 2026 lineup shows they are trying. The real question is whether the rider who has spent their entire lives measuring loyalty and brand names is ready to measure it in something else. And what happens to the entire American motorcycle market if the answer turns out to be yes?